it's the time. It's the end of the season, which means a lot of your kids might be moving up to the next age division. And yeah, we're talking mite, squirt, peewee, bantam, midget. I didn't even have to practice that. I just did that off the top of my head. And we have a whole episode here talking about what it takes mentally, physically, and everything in between for a parent and a kid when you move up to that next age level, how to prepare for it mentally, how to prepare for it physically, and maybe some of the red flags you want to look for when you're doing that. But also, speaking of moving on up, we've been nominated. If you've been listening to any of the episodes or you've been following our pages, we've been nominated as the Hockey Sports Podcasting Awards Podcast of the Year. We got shortlisted by their group of experts. And again, want to thank all of you who are our valued listeners for helping us get to the point where that's even possible. And if you want to help us win that award, head over to ourkidsplayhockey.com right now. There'll be an easy link to follow. You have to sign up quickly. We know, but you have to do that, and you can vote right there for us. Help us potentially become the Hockey Sports Podcasting Awards Podcast of the Year. That would be amazing. But if you don't want to pause right now to do that, we understand. Do it at the end. Otherwise, enjoy this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. Hello, hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome to another edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. I'm Lee Elias, joined by Mike Benelli and Christy Casciano-Burns, who is back from the Crusades to join us today for an episode. We are actually very happy to have you back, Christy.
I missed y'all so much.
We missed you too. It's not the same without you. And today's topic is a special one. We're going to be talking about moving on up to the next age level. Again, we're not talking about going from B to A or triple A or quadruple A or triple A super elite prospect showcase, whatever. We're talking about going from mite to squirt to peewee, peewee to bantam, bantam to midget. That's right. I use the old names. Okay. I like them too much. I'm not letting them go. I'm holding on to them. Or, 8U, 10U, 12U, 15U, 18U. You know how it goes. But before we dive into this, we have a special announcement. Christy Casciano-Burns has graduated.
I'm a graduate.
Graduated.
Yes. Mom graduate.
Her youngest daughter, Sophia, has graduated from her college career, thus making
her favorite daughter
has graduated from hockey, making Christy the first alumnus hockey mom on this panel.
Which is kind of exciting. It was so fun too. I mean, it was the way to go out. The girls had an amazing, incredible sudden death overtime game. They didn't win, but what a great way to just kind of leave it on the ice and have such a fantastic memory seared. Awesome. And they made history for their college too, because in the entire history of the program, they had never beaten St. Anselm. And they beat them in a playoff game, which had never been done since 2004. But we're going back years and years. And they made history. They were in the college record books for their college. And of course, there are a lot of tears, when it was all over, because it kind of hits you. You're walking out of the ring, you're like, wow.
Were any of those kids even born in 2004?
I was just going to say the freshmen were born in 2004.
Exactly. So that was pretty amazing. So what a way to end it all. Very cool. It was great.
I've enjoyed watching it on your social media. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, both of us.
And so the younger moms are coming up to a senior mom saying, "Why are you smiling? What do you mean? Are you sad? Are you upset?" We're like, "Nope. Next. Come on, get on with your lives, kids.
Move on."
I'm going to have some money. I'm actually be able to get my nails done. It's like, whoa, money in my pocket. I love it. Let's go, girl.
Let's not discourage the young hockey parents yet.
Yeah, no, we'll get to that. We'll get to that as the episode goes on.
Get on with your life, boy.
I want to give a stick tap from Mike and I to you, Christy. And I think it's also important to note that you're mentioning that just winning the championship is not the only way to go out feeling great.
No. Yeah, right? It was good stuff. It was good stuff. They battled their hearts out. We were so proud of them. It was really a lot of fun. It was fun.
There was nothing left. So we have to start with all of this said, for those of you listening, the burning question, Christy, that, you as a journalist, but I'm going to reverse it. I'm going to be the journalist to you. The $4 billion question. Was it all worth it?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. The memories, the friendships, all the lessons learned. It was just a culmination of 18 years of hockey. She started playing when she was 3. She's 21 now. So it's 18 years of determination, of, learning how to face adversity. She's made friends for life. I mean, I can see these women, these young women being in each other's weddings and being, godparents of their babies and stuff. I mean, these are forged friendships. They're always going to be there for each other, which is just so beautiful. The thing she learned, and this is true, employers love to hire hockey players. It's a fact. And I know why. Their work ethic, their ability to just face adversity, to figure things out, to come up with strategies on how to, overcome any obstacles. Yeah, so there's a lot to be said for being a hockey player. Yeah, and seeing your kids go through it. Yeah, I wish I had played hockey. I think I would probably be a better journalist.
Well,
no, seriously.
There was absolutely no hesitation in your answer there. And I actually think that is something that all of us that are still in this game need to hear, that at the end of the road, it was absolutely worth it. Right.
So fun.
That's an important message. And I think that you've calmed the hearts of many souls listening to this show. Now, Mike and I are going to make this uncalm and talk about all the things that are changing. No, Christy, that's a fantastic answer. And again, seriously, from both of us and all of us listening, congratulations on that for both your kids, right?
Thank you very much.
Yes, no problem, Elvis. So to give context to everybody listening, my son is about to graduate to Squirt, which is a pretty big jump. Mike, I forget if your kids are moving up to different age groups this coming season.
Technically, yes. Yes,
I'll take it. So
I mean, it's not like. So it all depends. So we'll talk about that in the show, but we'll talk about it today.
Sure. No, that's a good point too. And then my daughter is kind of at the end of Adams, looking at mites. So we're all at transitional periods within the game. Again, Christy's about to hit the jackpot and have all of her money back, which is amazing. But I want to talk about the common fears of this time period to kind of quell that for some of the parents listening, players listening, maybe even some of the coaches. And then talk about the reality of it, because there is a reality to your kid moving up to the next level. Spoiler, it's not that big of a deal. It's just part of the natural progression.
One of the things I always worried about with my son in particular is because he was a little bit smaller than some of the other boys. I was always worried as he moved up a level, the size and the speed of players that were, bigger, even though they're the same age. There's such differences in weights and heights. Right. And I was always fearful of, how his body wouldn't break against some of these bigger, faster, stronger players that they would go up against. That was always a big concern. So we'll go to Mike Benelli on that one.
And I think we're gonna have a discussion too on, because there are different, like moving up, there are actually some big changes. Like, when you were talking about going from a non-check to a checking, right, to going from maybe not moving up a level, but maybe you're moving up, within the organization, like a different organization has a whole different philosophy. You're moving to more travel, to more maybe workouts. Or is your kid ready? I saw a great thing today. We'll discuss too later on about, it's an old, like a real seasoned, grizzled hockey dad that has a lot of, that has much, that wants to offer advice. But I would always refer back to this and preface this whole podcast tonight on the fact that none of you are going to listen to this, and you're going to wait until you're 18 and go, oh crap, I should have listened to that. That's the one you should have listened to, because what happens is everybody gets this great epiphany of what they coulda and shoulda and maybe wanted to really do. And for a lot of us, it's too late. It's like after the whole process, like, man, I didn't need those 3 weekends away, or I didn't need to pull my kid out of that program. And again, I'd love to discuss that a little bit tonight, because it's not only moving up and leaving friends and leaving and buying a different jersey and moving up from from 10U to 12U. And then if you forget about it, if you're in a program that's major minor, where you're going from 10U minor to 10U major to so there are differences. And I think I'd love to discuss that, because I think it's a great thing to talk about within the fabric of youth hockey.
Well, let's focus on one thing. All right. So we'll start with you, Lee. What are you worried about with your kid moving up a level? What's your angst?
I'll tell you this.
What are you worried about?
The
We're
show
going to
has
help you. We're going to
quelled.
walk you through this.
The show has quelled a lot of them. So, look, here's the deal. My son switched from skater to pretty much full-time goaltender this season. So now he's going to Squirts, where he's going to be a full-time goaltender. It's full ice. There's the scores matter. They take standings, they take stats, which I personally don't care about. But that's a lot for a 9-year-old, going to be a 10-year-old to deal with. So the first thing, and again, a lot of this is based off the other parents that I've been with, those that are older, like their kids are 1 year ahead. The first one was just, what team are they going to make? And I'm very resigned to tell everyone, I honestly do not care. All right. We talked enough about
at that age, you shouldn't.
I don't.
It should not be. You should only focus on is my kid developing?
Exactly.
Is he getting the right instruction? Exactly. You shouldn't worry about that other stuff.
If there's anything I've learned from this show, it's that the kid's got to be in the right place to develop. And if it's his first year in Squirt, and he's got the ability to play in a higher team, sure, all right, but I'm not hoping for that. I'm hoping him to be on a team where he will develop.
You're already ahead of everybody,
right? But I want the audience to
well remember though.
Benelli's chiming in.
Remember,
Professor.
Remember that you that's all well and good not to fixate on what team they make, A or B, or the second or first team, but there is a real concern that we all of us have to see this as parents, that is the team that my son or daughter is getting placed on resemble the team that everybody wants to be on? Because if the second team is just a throwaway team,
right?
If it's a team saying, hey, we don't even know who the coach is yet because it's not really going to matter. It does matter. I mean, because that person's ability to have fun, to develop the kids. And actually, when you have a really strong developed organization that knows how to manage their kids and really use the term develop, you'll see the B kids progress faster and quicker than, because they're probably, for the most part, for many of them, they're in the proper place to have a lot of success. They're not like the old adage when we grew up, right? Was, to be the best, you got to play the best. But if you're playing the best and you never touch the puck and you don't get to play, you can't get better. So I think to your point, it doesn't. Yes, it in a lot of ways it doesn't matter. Does my kid make the A team and the B team as far as status? But it does matter to know. Well, what is the structure of that team?
Yeah, Mike, I'll tell you this.
Fair enough. I'm with that.
I think that when I look in my head, and follow me, there's confidence years and there's development years. Now, every year is a development year, don't get me wrong, but there's some years where maybe you are the better player on the team to start, and that you develop at your own thing. And I think those years are important just for building one's confidence. I think there's also years where you're not the top player on the team and you have to develop. I think they're both good for growth, not just as a hockey player, but as a person. I will say within our organization, when you move up to Squirt, all the teams have coaches. And they're pretty well coached. Although I have seen organizations where it's like, well, those kids aren't going to go anywhere, so let's find a dad. That would concern me a bit. All right. And again, I don't think he's walking into that situation. I feel like that our organization has that. That's a great point you're making. So look, the first one was just team placement. And I remember seeing parents last year kind of disappointed. They thought their first year Squirt should have been on a higher team. And look, maybe they're right. I mean, I'm thinking of actually one person in particular, their kid did over 100 points this year and it was great. But I can also say that maybe he's exactly where he needs to be. Maybe he needed to feel that. I don't know. It depends, right? The other, you were asking Christy, the other fear or thing to unlock, right? And this is angst as a parent, is just now you're dealing with somewhat older kids. And you're dealing with 9 and 10-year-old boys. You know what I mean? So how does that play into it? One of the nice things about Mite and Adams is it's still kind of a Cubby Bear type feeling. You know what I mean? It's safe, it's fun. Now it's like, you know what, I'm not in the locker room that much. And now it's like there is a coach that's really going to be on my son. And then, again, saying this with a grain of salt, but the games do matter, right? There is a winner and a loser, and then having to deal with that as a player and as a parent. Now, something I'll tell you both that's really funny, because this goes against everything we've heard about goaltending. My wife said something to me the other day. I can't remember if I said this on a previous episode, but she says, wow, Lee, your anxiety's actually gone down since Logan started playing goalie. That's the exact opposite.
How is that possible?
Well, I
don't know a single.
I can tell you how.
You're an anomaly because Every goalie parent I know, they're like, woo, it's like, where's the blood pressure medicine? You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like they go cray.
Well,
Yeah.
I think why, Christy, is that, and this is one of the funny things, is that I know so much about offense and defense that I don't know as much about goaltending. So from my brain, it's like, oh, I can learn this with them, and this is fun and exciting. And like, look, I've played and coached long enough that, the puck going in the net's not the end of the world to me. Like, you just know how to deal with that. And I'm trying to help him learn how to deal with that. Right. So I see it just as more of, oh, this is new and fun and exciting for me, as it is for him. So I think that's what I believe. But he's coming in a situation, kind of a new position, if you will, that he's going to have to work at. And so again, the fears that I see and somewhat experience, I guess, where I have to talk to myself about it, is what I just said. Number one is that, team placement, which again, I think I'm pretty stable with. There's older kids, look, boys and girls are mean to each other, right? So that's just part of it, though. I mean, it's all life experience, right? And then there's the competition of just, the bigger kids shooting at them. And again, this is what I want to quickly dissect is, as a parent, how do I approach that? As the kid, how should he approach that? Right? Because as a parent, it's just me, it's like, I just got to kind of keep my mouth shut. And, when he wants me, because the car ride's not for coaching, I need to be there for him, and his mother too, right? My wife. But from their point of view, is it still the same things, guys? Do I still say the same things to him before the game of just give your best effort? When the score does matter and they lose, what am I supposed to say, right? Or not say, for that matter?
Yeah. I mean, you still need to be supportive, and you got to listen to them. I mean, let them take the lead.
Right.
Don't force your feelings and your opinions on them. When they need to talk to you, they're going to let you know, and you're going to be able to sense that time when you need to intervene. They're like, okay, this is going bad. I need to step in and really have a conversation with my kid. You'll know. You'll know.
Well, I believe that.
And being a goalie parent, I predict, this is my prediction, right? 1 year from now, you're going to be standing behind the net. You're going to be pacing. You're going to have your clipboard. You're going to count, where did the shot go in? How many did he miss? Was that
no. That's old school. That's old school. You put the GoPro on the glass with the suction cups.
Yep.
And then you go, and then you download Instat and you or Huddle, and you extract the video all built out for you already, and you watch your child's clip by clip by clip. And then it never goes anywhere. You watch it on the train.
Wow, times have changed.
And you have a drink, and then you just you bury it.
That's
the goalie parents I see.
I'm not taking notes because I'm not going to do that.
I'm so out of it. I am so old school.
Yeah.
And I'm with college hockey parents, and they still stand behind the goalie net.
Look, Christy, this is what I'll tell you.
And then after the next period, you see them on the other side, and they're right behind the goalie. Right behind.
I love that.
Well, that is. This is what I will patiently wait for, and this may be for eternity. All right, until he comes to me and says, "Dad, can you help me? Dad, can you teach me? Dad, can you do this?" My gut reaction, and this is not easy, just so you know. My gut reaction is just go out there and have fun. Are you still having fun?
Yeah. Perfect.
When the answer is no to that, I will step in. And if he ever comes to me, which I hope he does, and says, "Look, I really want to get better at this. What do I need to do?" I'll give him everything. But no clipboards, no Instat, no GoPros until he wants it.
You got to get the GoPro going.
No, I do sit in the corner sometimes. I do sit in the corner sometimes. I mean, I'd rather be on the bench, to be honest with you. Yeah. But look, with that said, kids have a way of reminding you that you need to be a dad or a mom better than anybody else in the world. Yes. It's just not always fun in games, unfortunately, as you know. Right. No pun intended.
Yeah.
But those are my fears. And look, in reality, and again, I'll throw this back to you. In reality, I'm taking all of it with a grain of salt. It's another level. It's the next age group. It's not that big of a deal. It's the natural progression. He's going to do this multiple times in his hockey career, in his school career, in his life. To me, it's all just gravy and life experience. I'm not putting any more pressure on him. This is important, actually, before the tryout. I'm going to tell him the same thing I always tell him, which is just go out there and work as hard as you can, and make sure you shake the coach's hands afterwards. Don't budge in front of the line. Don't tell anybody off, like we had that episode about tryouts a few weeks ago. And just try your best. I'm going to love you no matter what happens, no matter what team you make. I'm not going to love you any different. And I love watching you play. That's what I'm going to tell them. I have seen parents say things like, "This one really matters. You really need to show up at this tryout." The kid knows. And if the kid doesn't know, that's okay too. I mean, he'll learn eventually. I would never want my kid fearful of me at a tryout.
Wow, that was good.
That's how I feel.
Yeah. So look, where do we want to go now? Do we want to talk about, like, so you get up to another level, you have to make all new friends sometimes. That
Sometimes.
happens.
Yeah.
And your kids too, a whole new set of friends, which actually is a good thing.
I agree.
I've actually appreciated those years where, especially my son, connected with kids from other school districts, kids he normally wouldn't have met. Um, they have that common bond of the love for hockey, and immediately, so that's already built in. So it's not like friendships are forced at all. They're pretty natural, and it's fun to see. So I know a lot of parents are nervous. Oh, he doesn't know anybody on this team.
It's a good thing. You're right.
It can be a really good thing, and it good for a lot of reasons. Sometimes it's good to get away and to make new friends, and that's going to help them as they keep moving up, and even to the upper levels in college. I mean, you don't know anybody,
Well, I
your
tell you,
first
in
day
just life, like when you switch
in
jobs,
life. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I think that's incredibly important. And
Yeah.
nice thing about hockey is like you might come and go with kids. You might see them one year and not the next
Right.
year.
Yeah.
But it's funny. We learn this in the military too. You're moving every 3 years, and you better
Right.
learn quick how to make friends and
Yeah.
live in that environment. So
that's why I think parents shouldn't get too anxious about that particular
It's a really good point.
story. Yeah. So
yeah, especially if you're switching organizations. Yeah.
Right. But I think that's why, like, I know, like for me, when an organization calls me to kind of assess their program and kind of do a SWOT analysis of where they're at, 70, 80, 90% of the time, I'm recommending to be in a year of birth structure. And I don't mind, like, and I do agree that you want to meet new kids and meet new families. But for the most organizations, I mean, maybe we're a little different, maybe on the East Coast, but throughout the US and really, and watching the European models and most of these kids are all from the same community. And when they come in together and they leave together. There's very few. I did a survey a couple of weeks ago on for like on social media, just trying to get an idea of like, why do we go through all this crazy tryout stuff when all there is really is like 2%? Like, Lee, when you look out on the ice with your kids for 10U tryouts, are there going to be 50 kids out there from a different organization? Probably not. You're probably going to have like 5. Right. And you're going to notice them right away. Oh, that kid's helmet doesn't match. He's the only kid. Like, so to me, it's like, well, what's healthier for organization? What's healthier for parents? And my advice is to find an organization that moves in a major minor category. And then you put your kids in age appropriate play. And a 10-year-old, so I'll use it like for my son, right? So a 2013 year of birth, who's going to be a squirt major next year, plays with 2013 year of birth.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They're in the same school, they're in the same gym class, they're in the same kung fu class, they're in the same lacrosse program. Like now, if that's not your category, I agree. It's like anything else. Right. But you got, actually, I was talking to your boy there from Syracuse, Boo Nieves, yesterday, and he was talking about his experience coming through Syracuse. And it was the same, like, it wasn't a lot of hockey. It wasn't a lot. Like you needed to find your level. You had to move. You had to just keep going to a different place. But for most of us, the community organizations that exist would be healthier. You'd retain kids longer. You'd build better programs. But if you're not in that situation, I think to both your guys' point, you need to coach your kids on the socialization part. You can't just ask your 10-year-old to go in a locker room and not coach them by the fact that you're going in a new locker room. Remember when we had Daryl Belfry on? He talked about how he would put his daughter in these weekend tournaments, and she only had to come out with one thing, and that's meet 3 new friends. Like, know them, introduce them, know their name. Yeah. And that was when she's 15 years old. So imagine what you could do for your 7, 8, 9-year-old. Just the comfort level of saying, "Hey, my name's Michael. I want to meet you. I'm excited to be here."
Well, and Michael,
kids can be brutal. I get that, but then it's our job to coach them through that adversity.
Right. And the scenario you provided of organizations that can do that, bravo. I wish we had that, but we didn't have that. But I have seen when we played against other teams where they have that kind of a structure, you can tell right away that those kids have been together for a long time because of the chemistry. They look at each other, they pass. They pretty much know each other's moves. It's amazing. You can see that right away. And if you could do that with an organization, fantastic. But there are a lot of communities like mine, we just don't have that opportunity. So, for parents who are in that situation, like what we went through, don't be worried that your kids, oh, they're moving up, they don't know anybody, it's going to be awful. I don't know any parents.
Yeah, and Lee, it doesn't matter. Like the last time I have never seen a 10U reunion game. Right at the Marriott. Hasn't happened. I haven't seen it yet. Now I might start that. That's my money.
Well, don't say that. Oh, somebody's gonna write it and say, "Oh, we just had a 10-year reunion."
You know, our 10U team won the silver.
Please write us if this has happened.
Listen, if you've had a 10U team reunion, please let me know that, because
I'm gonna stick by what I always say, is that kind of pre-puberty, a lot of this stuff is more just about fun and having a good time. I think it's about that all the time. But in the context of how I'm approaching it, Mike, I'll tell you a couple of things, Christy, too. One thing we have to keep in mind too about the kind of 7, 8, and 9-year-olds is that we don't talk about enough, is they had to deal with COVID. They were locked up for 2 years. So I think the social dynamic, Christy, that you were alluding to, is actually extremely important. I've seen, and I'm not pointing anybody out, a lot of socially awkward kids recently because they were not in those environments the last 2 years, and they don't know how to be in an environment with other people, and they're learning, right? And it's been wonderful to watch that, but they're just kind of awkward. I don't know if that's normal for that age, but I think that that's something that as a parent of someone who's 9, it's the more interaction they can get, the better. The other thing too, Mike, that you brought up is looking at organizations. Are they development first or making it to the top level first? Right. And I think that I am not a big fan, and I'm not going to say which one my organization is, but it's to me, it's not about you got to make the best team. You got to make the best team. We talk about it. I want him to make the team where he's going to learn the most, and he can enjoy the position the most, and he can learn how to properly make a glove save, blocker save, and angle and square up, not where there's so much pressure to win the game because he's on an A team. Not yet. I don't want anybody listening. I've had to make this distinction a few times because someone says, like, you don't want them to compete. I want them to learn how to be competitive. And there's a difference between competing and learning to be competitive. I think when you get, and Mike, we'll transition to you here. When you get over 15 and, it's high school and it's college, you got to compete. I mean, that's the level you're competing. You're trying to win. All right. But you've hopefully developed a healthy understanding of how to compete and how to be competitive in a healthy way, or else you start seeing severe mental illness and severe mental issues and suicide and all these other things. So again, if we don't teach them that prior to that, and I think this starts in Adams, to be honest with you, I don't think we're doing our job. And I think parents, we add the most pressure on if we're not careful. And that's why I said what I said about the message I'm going to tell my kid. I remember going to tryouts. I was often nervous, and I was often worried, and I was already feeling that. My parents never added, thank God, any pressure onto that for me. I was already feeling it. So the kids today feel it probably even more because they got to go online and say what team they made. Nobody cared when I was 15.
Right. You didn't know.
I didn't know. Nobody cared. I made the team. Oh, that's great, Lee. You made the team. They didn't even know what I'm A, B, C, everything in
status to it. And I think there's two words that like that 15U, 14U, that's so scary to me. It's, first of all, it's elite competition, right? And it's development, because everybody at 10U and 9U and 7U should be developmental. Like, there are no elite 10-year-olds. And I think, and I don't mean, and I think this is where people, like, I know in my world, this is where people get like, oh, well, you don't know what you're talking about, Mike. Like, you want to have development. You think about development. Development's not competition. Development's not my kid is striving to be this. No. Matter of fact, development is all about competition. Like, when you look at the ADM model and what USA Hockey's done, it's not a recreational, everybody hugging each other model. It's a high performance model. It's the model that if you want to be an elite hockey player when you're 17 years old, it's the model that you need to be using at 8. Right. And it is about competition. It's about battling. It's about adversity. It's about winning and losing. Like, even at cross ice mites and 8U hockey and 6U hockey, Yes, there's no score on the scoreboard, but that's not for the kids because the kids all know the score. That's for the batshit crazy dad that starts putting together schemes to win the game. That's who that's for. It's not for the kids because the kids do know the score. The kids always listen. My kids play shinny and they know the score.
Right.
Like that. Like even if I try to fake the score, like no, Dad, that's not the score. I know the score. Okay, well, it's not. I don't have a scoreboard in my apartment.
They know the score if you're kicking a rock down the street. Who has?
They know the score. So
they know the score.
But I want that. I want competition. I want battling. So I think when we're talking about moving up, like I see that with my, from moving up from like house league or rec to travel, there's a whole other world of expectations there. And I think the problem is that gap shouldn't be that big. Like my rec player should have as much development opportunity. Listen, I run a junior ranger development program called Junior Ranger Rookie Leagues. These are all 10 and under kids that aren't travel kids. I run the exact same practice as I do when I'm a guest coach with the Brick Series kids that are literally kids that are expecting to be drafted into the NHL in 9 years from now. It's the exact same practice. Now, does it look the same as far as the level goes? No, because there are different varying levels of 9 and 10-year-olds. But the format of the practice is a high performance practice. So when you're moving up, if you're in an organization that understands that the high performance part is the most important part, then you're so lucky. You're ahead of the game. If you're in an organization that says, "Oh, we got to play up so we attract better kids. It doesn't matter if we lose, and it doesn't matter if we ever touch the puck. We just have to have the status that we're in this other division." You mark my words, and if you listen to this, send me the statistics. You are losing all your kids anyway. You're losing them because you can't compete. So when you try to run when you're a parent, you go to a program that plays up, and you're like, oh boy, okay, we're in this league and we shouldn't be in the league, but it looks good, and I guess we got to be in the league. And then you get your doors blown off for the year. You're losing all those kids. 100%. Now, whether you're and maybe you're not losing them physically, but you're not developing them. You're not helping them. And I think that's what all of us are so scared about. Like me, when I look, other than the anxiety of me not being a good parent with my son moving up because I'm a crazy person, that but my anxiety is more, can my kids be in a great situation to have the philosophy that I feel comfortable with, and then be comfortable with it.
Right.
And not fake it, not like, oh, okay, guys, this is gonna be a year that we're gonna grin and bear it. We're gonna put on our 78,000 miles on the car. You ever see that Facebook joke where the guy goes to turn his car in? They're like, oh, this car has 195,000 miles on it, and it's only 2 years old. Because I'm a hockey parent.
Dad.
I'm a hockey dad. So
my kids play hockey.
My kids play hockey. So, but again, and probably the reason I wanted to get on this podcast to begin with is I want to debunk that. Like that doesn't need to be the case. We choose it. So moving up, I guess it goes right back to pick your program, but the anxiety of moving up is it's like anything else. Communicate to your kids, prepare your kids, and then support your kids. Like you don't have to be the best player. Like, hey, listen, you having fun? I love being here. Okay, well then we're good. Are all the parents
Mike, say that again? Say what you just said again. I want everybody to hear you say that again.
I don't know. Caitlin's gonna have to. She's gonna have to.
Your kid does not have to be the best player. I think that is such an important
matter of fact, depending on where you're at, it might be better to not be the best player.
I can guarantee you that. Yeah, I can guarantee that.
Listen, there are great players that continue to be great players. They're always great players. They're always the best kid. No, like everybody always says, well, at some point you're not going to be the best player. Well, I'm sure they said to Wayne Gretzky too, right?
Yeah.
And they're saying to Connor Bedard, hey, you know what? At some point you're not going to be the best player. Well, I am. I'm the best player.
Well, here's the other thing too, though, about those guys, Mike. I think it's important. The best players, if they're truly the best players, they're going to lift up the players around them and not just be the solo best player.
Well, so think about that. Okay, can I just hit on that 1 second, Chris?
Yeah.
When you hear a parent say, "Oh, Mike, I get this. I get this a lot. I should actually write down all the times I get it. If I put my kid in this program, he's just too good for this team. He's like, isn't it going to hold him back?" I'm like, it only holds him back if you tell him how great he is and that he's too good for the team. It doesn't hold him back if you say, my God, what an opportunity we have here. We get to be in a lower cost organization. We don't have to travel as much because you're not I don't have to put you as now the 12th player on the elite team. You get to learn leadership skills, power play, penalty kill. You're going to be the kid in the locker room that everybody looks up to. You're going to be the kid that says, "Oh my God, thank God you're here. We thought you weren't coming today." Like, confidence to me, like that's
what a confidence builder.
There's so much. And I'll tell you, I don't know who's done the study, and I've read this 100 times, but if somebody sends it to us, like young males, boys just need this sooner and more often than girls. I don't know why that is, but it's just that girls get it later, I think. But for young boys, that feeling that they're the man, that they're the leader, that they have some swagger, that goes such a long way in building who they're going to be later on. And instead of the beating down, oh, you're not good enough, or just be happy where you're at. Make sure your kids are healthy and energized. But more importantly, if you put yourself in a situation, because here's the thing, I would much rather see a parent waver on the side of being on a team that's not as good and your kid's the best, other than a team that now he's not, or he's too good and this kid's, the kid's the better player, than on a team that he's not that good and you're spending 50% more time getting there and traveling and not knowing the community. And frankly, a team that maybe you're going to be on for 1 year. Like, I'd rather see a player stick with it, learn in the environment they're in, uplift the environment they're in. Listen, I'm having the same conversation with lacrosse right now. Second graders that are better than third graders, and we got to move up. Yeah, but then what happens to the second graders? Like, don't you want to be with your teammates? Don't you want to be your classmates? Don't you want to be with the kids that eventually, because it's going to catch up. It's going to catch up. Like, at what point do you say, "Oh, now I need to leave"? Well, you're going to leave anyway, so leave now. Like, just. Or stay and develop your kid and be the best player in an organization. Now, when you get to 15, 16, when it matters, you got to compete. You do have to listen. You got to be in a place where you're going to battle and get a little grit and learn that the consequences of you doing things and not doing things definitely shows
and
up.
you learn that along the way. I do want to say, Mike, if those of you watching, Christy's in the newsroom right now. We only have a couple minutes left because she's got to get through her hang.
I forgot about that.
I do want to jump in.
Yeah, please.
A little point about, and this is fantastic that you mentioned development. And I just want to kind of hone in on there a little bit. And I've seen this so much over the years. Parents don't have patience. They have to understand development is a process. It's not instantaneous. So when your kid is starting out with that team, you've moved up, it's a higher level of play, and you think, wow, they're just not cutting it, and it's the beginning of the season. Be patient, because lo and behold, your kid's got a good work ethic like my kids did. They are going to work their butts off to get developed and get those skill levels. And then in a month, I guarantee you, give them a month, you're going to see an improvement. Give them 2 months, and you're like, wait. And look back at a videotape that you might have taken when they first started, and you're going to see marked differences if you're just patient and instilling them that you got to work harder. Hey, guess what? You're not as good as that kid. You just got to put the work in it, and before you know it, they adapt, they adjust. Yes, Mike's got his hand. Yes, Professor Benelli.
And if they don't, they don't.
It's okay too.
But
just be patient.
You can't buy development. Like, I can't believe, and that's the hockey problem, right? It's the ROI. It's I've invested. I've done this. I've done that. But it doesn't matter. It's nothing. You can't do anything about it. You just have to give the path. Yeah. In your case, pay for it as long as you have to, and then they make the best out of it. But to your point is exactly and that's where we're all that's where we're all losing patience. I just had a conversation the other day, right, about text messaging. Like, a text message is an email. An email is not a text message. Like, so don't email me and expect me to email you back. So it's the same thing as patience. Like, just this is a process. Like, one weekend does not make your program.
Right.
But and I'll tell you right now, and Lee mentioned it earlier, 1 year doesn't make your life. It could be good and bad. It could be the worst year of your life, but let's all learn and use it.
It's true in life and beyond hockey. And like, I'll say this too. And Christy, you said about development being patient. Sometimes they're going to go backwards before they go forwards. And again, we're very accepting of this when our babies are learning to walk. We need to subscribe to that. lifelong. I mean, life works that way, right?
Or if you work out, if you're in a weight room and you're trying to get, you know, if you're a bodybuilder, there is a plateau. There's time where patience has to come, and then you wait and it comes back, and then you wait and it comes back.
Well, and Mike, I'll say this. I like to say this a lot. The permission to be patient. You know, parents, I'm speaking to you. You've got to give yourself permission to be patient. You don't have to rush the whole process.
There you go. You know, now you're talking to me.
Isn't that hard though?
Yeah, it's very hard. But like most things, you got to practice it. It doesn't just snap. If you practice patience, you'll become more patient. Look, final note for me, because Christy, I know we got to get you out of here. This is my final piece of advice, and this is in the work that I do. I might be a young hockey parent, but I have been coaching hockey for 20 years. And I will tell you all this, that parents, do not spend the year playing the what if game. When you're on a team, you're on the team. Doesn't matter what level it is, age, letters behind it. Do not spend the whole season. Well, if you were on this team, if you were on that team, don't let your kids say, well, if I had made this team, do not play that game. You're on the team you're on. You got to make the best of it, even if it's a bad situation. That, you want to talk about ROI, long-term ROI, that kid will be way more prepared for life. When life throws the bad situation and you don't get the job or the title or this grade that you want, you'll know how to deal with it. The ROI on hockey has nothing to do with making it in hockey. You are paying to develop the life skills of your child. And I guarantee you that if you kind of go at it with that mindset, they will succeed, right? If you go at it with the wrong mindset, they're destined to be in a lot of pain.
Yes. All right. And I'm going to circle back to the very beginning of our conversation. Because, you know, I'm at the end of my hockey mom career, okay, it just ended, and I was in that pot of gold, right? I found the pot of gold. But while I was going through it, all those years and years and years, I lived in the rainbow.
I love that. That's good.
Right?
That's
You'll
good.
get that pot of gold, but don't forget to live in the I need like that one.
That is good. We're going to make a t-shirt with Christy, a cartoon.
Live in the rainbow.
I like it.
Yeah. We're always after her lucky charm. Don't forget that. No, actually, Chris, that's brilliant. I'm gonna end it on that one.
Oh, and I do have over 135,000 miles on my vehicle. It's not so.
That's beautiful.
How many Hilton Honors points do you have? That's what I want.
Oh my gosh,
all of them.
I think I got a free trip to Italy.
Yeah, when she walks in, they go, "Oh, Mrs. Cascio Burns." Listen, just to close this out, we do want to do an episode on kind of that movement from non-hitting to hitting. We'll do an episode on that, of what happens when you're stepping up to actual physical contact in the game. And that year prior, we used to be called Pee Wee, of learning how to do that. That's a separate episode. But I think today's goal was to give some general, thoughts about, hey, what happens when my kid's moving up to the next age level. I think we accomplished that. We got it from the fairy godmother herself, who rides rainbows and flies around, Christy Casciano Burns. And Big Man Benelli, who just knows what he's talking about. Big Man Benelli. I'm going to use that. And I want to say again to both of you, thank you both, because a lot of the insight I have on this comes from you two and doing this show, right? And it's one of those things, until you experience it, you don't really know what you're talking about. But having gone through 3 seasons now, I can see a lot of it, and I'm thankful daily that I have the insight of you two and our audience that have sent over messages to help us with that. So again, shorter episode today. Again, if you're watching, Christy's in full anchor gear. She's about to jump on the news. Christy, thank you for being here tonight. We always appreciate it.
Good luck.
She's looking for something, but
I was looking for my my microphone. I don't have it here.
Your actual microphone, no. But look, feel free to message us. We gave you lots of reasons to email us this week, whether you agree with us, disagree with Mike, because most people agree with us. No, I'm just kidding. If you disagree with any of us, email us.
No, most people disagree with me. I get it.
I don't disagree with you, Mike. I think
I want to hear about that 10-year reunion, though.
I can't wait.
I'm organizing it. It's only $695 per head.
And you can use your Hilton Honors.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. All right, so that's gonna do it for this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Remember, all the episodes are available at ourkidsplayhockey.com. If you're looking for some great coaches, diff, end of season gifts, check out ourkidsplayhockey.com. They're there. Other than that, we'll see you next week. Everybody have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Take care, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.